to Getting Strange, the X-Files Rewatch podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kim.
I'm sure I said the X-Files Rewatch podcast as if we're the only one.
We might be the only one, who can say?
That's fair, I'm sure there's other ones around. It'd be nice to corner the market, but I don't think we're quite there yet. Do we have news?
Yes.
Oh.
I do have news. I occasionally have news.
Excellent.
It's actually something that the X-Files Preservation Centre in Saratoga Springs asked me to promote.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So, for all of you like us that can't get over to New York State to visit the Preservation Centre, they are actually offering live guided tours that you can do from anywhere in the world, just sat comfortably, so long as you have a computer that can play Zoom and emails.
Okay, I think we can do that.
Yep, so if you head over to their website, which is, and this is all one word, xfilespreservationcollection.com, you can book in one of these guided tours. They are only certain days of the week, and you do have to match it up a bit if you're in the UK like us, because of course they're on American times.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks pretty good, and that way at least you can see the whole collection.
I suppose that's another Patreon episode there. We can sort of go do the tour and then do an episode about that.
Yeah, I think they only do it on certain weekdays, but yeah, I'm sure that's something we could look into at one time. I think you've just got to be able to just book them a couple of days in advance from what I read on their website.
Well, that's cool. I suppose that's the other kind of news we've got, is that we finished our Let's Play of the first X-Files game. Not all available over on Patreon yet. 3 parts of it are, and there'll be 5 in total. And we'll do an actual review of it after the first 2 parts of Season 7. I think we decided, wasn't it?
Is that where you're going to put it in?
Well, there's a break-off point there after we're done with 6 Extinction. Then we can sort of do that before we get into the rest of Season 7.
Yeah, sure. It'll be nice to summarise it all.
Will it be going, what the hell happened?
So yeah, we can make that available here, but if you want to watch the Let's Play itself, you'll have to sign up to our Patreon.
Watch us die to so many different things.
There were a lot of deaths in that game.
A lot of deaths. And there's a lot of deaths in the episodes today.
Hooray!
Hey! If you have nothing else?
No, that's everything.
Okay. So this is one of the kind of bigger points of the X-Files in the fact that we've hit a weird terminal point in the conspiracy, but we'll get into that when we get to One Son. First up, we've got Two Fathers, which was directed by Kim Manners, written by Chris Carter and Frank Spotnitz, and first broadcast on the 7th of February 1999. Guest stars, we know most of these people. We've got Krychek, we've got Diana Fowley, though we're not meant to know that bit.
She's not credited.
She's not credited, but she's still in here. We've got Cancer Man, we've got Spender. We don't have Kirsch for this episode, he's next time, as are the Lone Gunman.
And you've got all the Syndicate members.
I've got all the Syndicate. So, about that, guest stars Al Rusco as 4th Elder.
There's a 4th?
There's a 5th, but only a few of them actually get Wikipedia entries.
Okay.
So, I almost overlooked him, but then I saw a few points on his resume which said, yeah, okay. Showgirls. Police Squad.
Okay.
And Seinfeld.
Oh.
And the other one, and this was really a surprise, is Nick Tate, who played Eugene Openshaw. He's not in it much, but he's there. So he was in Hook, Star Trek Next Generation and Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
Escape from Monkey Island.
Oh, really?
And Psychonauts 2.
That's cool.
Again, we just keep finding X-Files people who are also voice actors.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah, I thought that was quite good.
Do you have a synopsis for this episode?
I do. Okay, so from Wikipedia. In a train car, doctors in chemical suits are making incisions on an unseen patient's stomach. Green fluid seeps out of the wounds, which heal themselves shortly afterward. When Dr. Eugene Openshaw arrives, he is informed that their 25-year-old project is finally completed. Moments later, alien rebels begin to appear and start burning all the doctors, the only survivors being Dr. Openshaw and the patient, who is revealed to be Cassandra Spender, who has been missing for over a year. Skinner takes Spender to the scene where he meets with his mother. Cassandra refuses to speak to Jeffrey about what happened to her because she believes he won't believe her. She instead asks for Mulder. Spender then asks, in inverted comma, Mulder to join him to meet with his mother, but Mulder sees it as an attempted trap. Later on, Dr. Openshaw informs Cigarette Smoking Man about the completion of the project, saying he needs to kill his former wife since she is the first successful alien-human hybrid. Cigarette Smoking Man then swiftly kills Dr. Openshaw to prevent him being questioned. Meanwhile, one of the Syndicate elders is killed by an alien rebel who then takes on his form. Mulder and Scully go over the crime scene photos from the train car, and then subsequently go on to visit Cassandra at the hospital, who informs them that the aliens are here to destroy all life on Earth, further stating that this alien threat moves through the universe to colonize other planets. She claims a rebel force of aliens are mutilating their faces to prevent infection by the black oil. Krychek reports the Syndicate on the rebels' recent attacks. The rebel masquerading as the Elder he killed proposes that the Syndicate align themselves with the rebels. The cigarette smoking man seems to recognize that the Elder has opposed his own previous opinion that siding with the rebels is suicide. Mulder and Scully use a computer on the X-Files office to find the cigarette smoking man's real identity, and that he is Agent Spender's father, C.G. Spender. Their unauthorized entry at the X-Files office is discovered by Agent Spender, resulting in both agents' immediate suspension from the FBI. Spender reports the cigarette smoker man, demanding the truth, but is refused. Scully meets with Mulder, telling him that C.G. Spender is likely another alias, and the man is linked with Mulder's father, who worked on the Secret State Project. Cigarette smoker man decides to give Spender more responsibility by having him kill the alien rebel masquerading as a Syndicate Elder. Spender fails in this task, but Krychek comes to his aid and finishes the job. Krychek reveals to Spender that his father was responsible for his mother's abduction, and that his role is to protect his father's stake in the project. This fact upsets Spender. Cigarette smoker man reveals everything to Diana Fowley, who agrees to help him. Mulder tells Skinner that Cassandra is in danger because of her status as the first successful alien-human hybrid. Skinner goes to the hospital to check on Cassandra, but finds her gone. Cassandra has escaped and arrives at Mulder's apartment and demands that he shoot her because she is the embodiment of 50 years of work by the Syndicate, and her presence will trigger colonization if the aliens learn of her existence. Just then, a loud pounding is heard on Mulder's apartment door.
Thank you.
We know that a lot of reviews were very favourable of this episode.
Oh, overwhelmingly. Some said that this two-parter was the best episode of The X-Files.
And it might not surprise you to know that I disagree with that quite strongly.
That's strange. You're usually so complimentary.
Yes. You also don't like this one, though.
No, I don't.
I will say it's better than the next part, but we'll get into that in a minute.
That's often the case with the two-parters, though, that the first part is stronger.
Yeah, though I think the problem with part 2 is a bit different this time, which is odd. One thing I realised earlier today when I was thinking this through is we spent a lot of time insisting that Cassandra is the first successful alien-human hybrid.
Yes.
We don't understand what that means.
No.
And we don't know how she's different from all the other alien-human hybrids we've seen.
True.
And we probably should understand that to understand why she's so critical. Because we've seen the whole self-healing thing, which is the only thing we see demonstrated before. So, what gives?
The original reason for creating the hybrids was the immunity to the black oil virus, though.
Yeah.
So she has shown that we've finally managed to perfect this.
Yeah. At the same time, it's not clear why being spliced with humans would make you immune to it, because the shapeshifters are also vulnerable to the black oil, and humans are vulnerable to black oil, so I don't understand why the hybridization would make you invulnerable.
But the rebels might be a different alien race. They're not the same race as the colonists.
Did we find out they were? I thought you read something like that the other day.
No, they're the same as the bounty hunters, which again are not necessarily the same as the colonists.
Oh, it's just infuriating, isn't it?
Because the black oil is the life force of the colonists. And the rebels are, from what I read the other day, and it was reading production notes between the scenes of this, the idea is that the colonists have now taken over every planet in the galaxy except for where the rebels are from, Earth. So the idea is that's why the rebels are trying to stop them and why they've mutilated themselves to ensure they cannot be taken over.
Yeah, and we're going to put a pin in that point because we're going to come back to one of the most inexplicable moments in the entirety of the X-Files next time. But put a pin in that. I feel that we don't actually do anything with the philosophical and metaphysical terror that implies. The fact that the rest of the universe is now devoid of life, except for the rebels.
Not necessarily devoid of life, enslaved, perhaps.
Enslaved or devoid of intelligent life.
Because we're assuming that these creatures, now we've seen what purity actually does, is that this is much like the Alien movies.
Yeah.
So, essentially, these other life forms are breeding stock for the aliens.
Yeah. I mean, it very much is the Alien movies, isn't it? I think we do come back down to, and I don't think one son actually helps with this at all, is it's ultimately rather unclear why the aliens need the Syndicate at all.
Yeah, I've got to admit I'm baffled.
Because it's that you are a technologically advanced, all-powerful race who can dredge black oil up from the ground. I mean, I don't understand why you can't just land a ship and start a mining operation, because the humans can't do much to you. I mean, the only times we've seen aliens taken out are things like the Fallen Angel accident, or the Tempest Fugit, you shot down a UFO receiving abduction in midair.
We know they are vulnerable to the same kind of things that humans are because Deep Throat shot one.
Yes, a gunshot to the head, assuming it can't deactivate your gun like Little Green Men, will work just fine on them. It then leads to questions about the stilettos, which get increasingly shonky the more you go on with what they're even for.
Again, they're used on the bounty hunters, which are a different race, though.
Yeah.
Well. That might be something specific to the whatever race the bounty hunters and the rebels belong to.
It's true. Although, just thinking, the X-Files game really confuses that matter. But we'll get to that when we get to that one. On reflection as well, this episode, actually no, while watching it, this episode has a structural weakness, and the trivia explains what happened. There's meant to be more scenes of the Young Syndicate.
Yes, I did read that the bookends of Cancerman telling the story were a late addition because they couldn't get these flashbacks to look right.
And it's one of these things where William B. Davis is a great actor, and nothing wrong with what he's doing. It's absolutely, definitely boring to sit through. Having a man sit in the chair and narrate. This is like disc 2 of Xenogears.
I think this is a problem with the X-Files in general, because X-Files loves these monologue openings, and they are always really dry. It's like Mulder's opening monologue in The Field Where I Died, for example.
Yeah, but this is a whole episode of it. We don't stop it. And again, I think I keep coming back to, and I know why we're dropping all the pretenses here, it's how thoroughly Cancerman is dropping pretenses at this point, though. It's like, just saying, the alien colonists, the black oil, the bees. Did we mention the bees? We're not going to focus on the bees, but we're going to mention the bees.
It's your ongoing problem with them dropping the kind of Final Solution-esque codes for things.
Yeah, it just feels that was such a part of their mystique for so long, was they wouldn't. You knew what they meant, but they were never going to say it out in the open.
Yeah.
And now we just don't care anymore. We're just going to literally say the alien colonists. I suppose the only fun I really had in this episode was trying to figure out who Cancerman was talking to the whole time. This case of, okay, it can't really be Spender, because he's not going to be this honest with Spender. And Krychek should know all this. We sort of just ran through the cast list, and it's like, oh, it's Diana Fowley. Of course it's Diana Fowley.
I guess Mulder would have been the only other one, but you couldn't imagine Mulder listening so quietly either.
Yeah, not demanding answers or saying, oh, you need to do something.
I did read it's kind of interesting. The thematic elements of this two-parter is family.
I can see that.
Two fathers and one son. But interestingly, they cut out a scene with Krychek that helped hammer this home as well.
Oh.
It was one where essentially, a scene that showed that Krychek is essentially gunning for Cancerman's position, where he kind of is very flattering and complimentary, and comments that when Cancerman dies there'll be a vacuum, and Cancerman kind of says, oh no, that wouldn't go to you, there is another person I have in mind for it, who I have to assume is Spender.
Yeah.
But that would also put Krychek in the running for the son of the episode title.
Yeah.
Because you got two fathers, one son. The one son is evidently Spender.
Yeah.
Or Mulder, depending on how you're reading this.
I think this is in the notes for one son. It confirms which one it is.
Yeah. But you could have also had Krychek if the scene had been kept intact.
You could have. Maybe that's why they cut it.
Mm.
I did note it's quite amusing, although it's a one son bit again of Krychek's recent career move. Because Krychek, what's going on? You're now doing reports of the Syndicate? I thought you hated all these people. Can we have a comment from you about Well Manicured Man's blowing up? I don't know. I'm just going to keep on dragging this one out forever, but I don't think I'm going to get one, am I?
Well, following what happens in One Son, I don't think you're going to get anybody acknowledging that Well Manicured got blown up anymore.
No. I kind of feel that this episode and the next one are trying to connect back to the conspiracy in previous episodes, but not like in a graceful way, in a very kind of checkbox way.
I think we do get a flashback of all the major points in the conspiracy over the course of this two-parter, because we get references from the Earl and Mayor Flask with things like Purity and Purity Control coming back. We get the trains from Nissan 731. We get Move On from Redux.
Yeah. But it doesn't... I don't feel it's at all satisfying, per se, because it's like, here is the train car at the start of the episode with Cassandra on it.
Yeah.
And that's neat, but we haven't seen that since Nisai. And we're just going to gloss over those Japanese scientists who were doing the stuff in Nisai.
And now it's all American scientists.
And now it's all American. We're just not going to know anything about that one. Yeah, and just, it feels really bitty. One thing I realised as well, reading the synopsis, is Mulder and Scully go to the X-Files office to use the computer to look up Spender.
Yeah.
And from that, they then find Cancerman's file.
Yeah.
Are you telling me he's been in that database the entire time?
And so easy to find.
All
you have to do is look up Spender and there's a big picture of him.
Yeah, or he's not listed on normal aliases, but they had to do some digging to find him. But I get that they didn't know his name before. It still feels weird that he's just been there. Out in the open, you could have found him. And I suppose it feeds back into, and it's worse in one sense, of how hasty the episode is. Because we've got Mulder and Scully being suspended from the FBI for possibly the flimsiest argument I've ever heard.
Of being found in the old X-Files office.
Yeah, and they weren't. They were found in the corridor outside the old X-Files office. Which is a different charge, I'm sure. I mean, yeah, you could probably prove it, but it's a different one. But the fact that Scully then took C.G. Spender and dug up all that stuff, and they couldn't do this with Bill Mulder? Because surely the two of them should be inextricably tied in the records and things, shouldn't they?
True.
And they just aren't, and we've got Mulder playing basketball for whatever reason. Can we talk about the Rebels, though? Because I feel something has changed about the Rebels, and I don't think people were thinking it through.
You're going beyond my baffling, now knowing what I know about the Rebels, of why the Syndicate didn't just side with them.
Yeah, from the word go. It's very, I think it's just we wanted drama in season 5, basically.
Yeah.
But, okay, so as far as we understood it until this episode, you could be a humanoid figure. We're not quite sure what these aliens look like normally, but if you wanted to prevent infection from the black oil, you mutilated yourself, you stitched your eyes and mouth shut, possibly your nose and ears. Somehow you can still see what's going on enough to burn people alive. We'll leave that aside.
Maybe they've got some kind of level of precognition or something, and they don't need eyes to see.
Some other sense we're not familiar with. A sixth sense that just doesn't attribute to humans. That's fine. I can live with this. But the fact that one of these rebels successfully targets Third Elder, not First Elder, not second. Oh, second.
It's Second
He
Elder.
targets Second Elder, not First Elder, not Cancerman, no one else. Get Second Elder, and we do this repeated thing of tearing someone's face off. So he's got a human, accurate-looking rubber mask, apparently, that you can just tear off with a little bit of force. What the hell is going on?
And noting the fact that their normal human forms, when they've shapeshifted, look totally normal, but if you pull the mask off, they're disfigured underneath.
Yeah, and they can see and speak and everything, and this isn't how masks work. You have a special effects department, you've had people in latex, you know how this works.
I think you'd need it more to be something like the Glamours in Grimm or something like that, where they don't look like this, but they're projecting an image that they do.
Yeah, and we could totally get behind that. I mean, as an aside, this is one of the infuriating bits about the live-action Cowboy Bebop.
Okay.
Is in that version, they introduced that as a technology in the world, and every single time someone is fooled by it.
Right.
It's like, after the first time, you know this is possible, you've got to take it into account.
Yeah.
But then I suppose this goes for our Alien Bounty Hunter argument of no one suspects anyone like this.
Anytime anyone behaved a bit out of character, you'd suspect the Alien Bounty Hunter.
The existential nightmare of the Alien Bounty Hunter is never undertaken by the series. He's credited in this episode as well, and he just must be one of the rebel figures.
I presume so.
It's weird, though, because normally he's quite distinct, because we spotted him in Red and the Black. He's one of the people who crashed in the ship on that one.
Yeah.
He's really obvious which one he is. And then he's the Alien Bounty Hunter, because they all just look the same.
Or, he's a real shapeshifter, and he has just been Scully this entire time.
Well, I'm always going to go for that one, but no, we've got excuses for Scully now. We know she's immortal.
Yep.
It's fine. She's immortal. No harm can come to Scully from here on out. It's great. On retrospect, nothing actually happens. I know a lot of things happen in this episode, but there's nothing to cling on to.
Well, for starters, the major thing is bringing back Cassandra Spender.
Yeah, and okay, actually, that's a good point. We'll focus on the Cassandra Spender because she does some hard 180s in this script, and they're unjustified.
It's basically she's finally figured out what the aliens are actually doing and that it's not benevolent.
Yeah, but she's all happy, smiley, and calm. I want to see Mulder until she gets Scully, and then as soon as she gets hold of Mulder, the aliens are going to destroy us all. I was wrong about them being nice to me. Like, could you not have been paranoid and panicked before this? And then she's the key to everything, and I'm still I don't get that one.
I'm still a bit baffled about how creating a hybrid, it might just be something I've missed. Why is creating a pure hybrid, a pure successful hybrid, the thing that will start the colonization? Why is that the, starting pistol?
The only thing I can think of, and I think we only get a partial explanation in One Son, is there's a comment about they'll give the hybrid genes to the select few.
So we're just bidding on the aliens, that the aliens need the syndicate for some reason that we're not clear on, and the fact that this is it, that we'll wait off until you can perfect this. For some reason, they're not perfecting this technology.
Yeah, I don't know why they can't do it. And it does leave you with the whole colony as an episode is a problem. Because the aliens were doing this separately from the Syndicate? Question mark?
That they had their own kind of program going, you mean?
Yeah, or there was a distinction between the colonists, the Syndicate, and the alien bounty hunter. Because the alien bounty hunter is very confusing now.
I think you need just more of an explanation, which we haven't got, of if the bounty hunter belongs to the rebels race, which is distinct from the colonists, why the bounty hunters are working in league with the colonists, whereas the rebels aren't.
Yeah, well, and the Syndicate, because the Syndicate keep calling upon the bounty hunter, so that's just confusing.
I read the confusion online is people assumed that the bounty hunter was distinct from the rebels, because even though everything about them is similar, the rebels don't have the acid blood.
Okay.
Whereas the bounty hunter does, and the explanation that was given, I think, by Spotnitz was it's because the bounty hunters have been exposed to the black oil and the rebels have not, and that somehow has given them the green acidic blood, whereas the normal rebels don't have it.
So that means that Mulder should have acid blood.
But he's not an alien.
I know he's not.
To be fair, it's something distinct with this race having, been in contact with purity, as we can now call purity because the two have been confirmedly linked now.
Yeah, which also doesn't make a lot of sense. I suppose the problem with that is the problem I always have with these things of, A, that's not in the actual episode. I don't like referencing press conferences or any external media for this because how are you, as a viewer coming to this, meant to get that?
Yeah.
You can read Wikipedia afterwards, but that's terrible. That's really bad storytelling. The other is, this is someone being put on the spot trying to desperately justify how things work, and that's the best way he could muddle through it.
Mm-hmm.
This is not some long-term plan for the conspiracy. This is I need to justify the bizarre stuff I did in this episode.
But at the same time, to get back to the point, is Cassandra is revealed to essentially be our golden goose here. The creation of the perfect hybrid, which is Cassandra, is now what's going to trigger everything, which has led into the whole ethical debate of we can delay this colonization further if we just kill her now.
Yeah. I mean, you'd think that turning up a dead body would sort of presumably also work just as well, so you'd have to burn the corpse.
And I guess we've got to just discern for the rebels, because the obvious thing seems to be that we could just side with them, but we have seen that the rebels aren't above just massacring everyone in their path, so, maybe we can't trust this race either.
Well, I suppose so, but no one's even tried to talk to them.
This race wants to eradicate the colonists. It doesn't matter who gets in the way.
No. I think also the real sticking point for me, at least, is the film at this stage. Because it's unless you're going to discount everything Well Manicured Man says, Your problem now is, as far as he said to them, the expectation was if they developed the vaccine, they could just reject mind control, was what they were fearing was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then it turns out, no, you're going to be used as literal hosts for aliens to grow and gestate inside you. And that's fine, but very alien. And we have, outside of the beginning, we have now completely forgotten about that because that doesn't come up once, does it?
No.
We know the aliens are going to come and torch the planet. There's nothing about we're going to use you as incubators.
No.
Which is a thing I think Cancerman should have said at some point.
It seems more like purity is going to be used now in its original intention of it's a bioweapon that is going to wipe out humanity to leave this planet for everyone. But hybridization somehow is going to prevent us, from, the chosen few, from being wiped out.
I think we're just going to keep circling around on that. We don't get how that works.
Well, there's also no contingency plan of, this isn't like we're at the technological level where the ones who survive can go and live on a space station somewhere or something like that. You will be on an empty planet, just the half a dozen of you in this room.
Well, not empty, because the aliens are reclaiming it, so
Yeah.
you'll be living in an alien population going, so, this is awkward. Who's growing crops anymore? Can we grow crops in this atmosphere now you've taken over? I suppose that's the other thing.
I presume our endgame is just survival. Survival by any means.
Yeah, though, you've got to go with, do you want to survive in that state? I have realised that we can lay the blame of Prometheus at this episode, then.
Prometheus definitely came after this episode, didn't it?
Oh, it definitely did, but
yeah.
We've got a strange destructive black liquid that changes
true.
people into weird monsters, seeded onto Earth by a race of weird aliens who we don't quite understand, and rather not think about because they're kind of rubbish. But yeah, so the Syndicate are going to survive in possibly the most awkward, inconvenient way possible. Sure, guys, go for that. That doesn't sound like his best plan to me.
It's probably a good point to note why this episode was made. So, in part, this two-parter is in response to some lukewarm reception that the film got. Just on the basis of the film was kind of advertised with the tagline of something like "The truth is revealed," and then didn't really reveal an awful lot, or didn't really reveal things that we didn't already know. So fans were disappointed. So the intention of this was, we've dragged out the Syndicate-based conspiracy too long, and we need to wrap it up so we can tell new stories.
I think the problem with that is the film is a better story than this. And the film's reveals, as you said, while they weren't hugely revelatory, it at least consolidated everything into one place for the first time.
Yes, it gave us a very, very concise rundown of exactly what's happening, which are things we already know, but we'd extrapolated them from several different story arcs at that point.
Yeah. But like, Well My Good Man managed that in about 5 minutes. Cancerman takes 45 in this.
And doesn't consolidate everything.
And just seems to keep repeating the same point. I mean, I can't remember if it's this one or One Son, but there is a real sense of repetition across these episodes of not only we've seen this before, but people keep telling each other the same things in these episodes.
And it's especially when they're doing things like telling it to Kryjak, who already knows all this.
Yeah, and it's things, but though I could swear there's scenes where Cassandra explains something to Scully explains the same thing to Mulder, and we get to see the whole conversation play out each time, and we don't need the repetition. We know what this was. Scully isn't going to suddenly jazzy up the events just to make a point. I don't, I just don't understand why any of this episode happened. Actually, no. As you said, I understand it. It's the Syndicate have been on too long. We need to shut everything down. Do something else.
I think the major problem, which we've raised with the Syndicate before, is we just kept raising more mysteries for the longest time and not resolving things. So this is the whole, alright, it's all just got too kind of swollen and bloated now. We can tell new stories with the mythology then.
Yeah, and I think it's just come back to kind of observations right from the start of you at no point, or at least not early enough, knew what this conspiracy was. Because we point to Piper Maru all the time of, this transparently was not on the cards initially. It's become part of the conspiracy, but it never factored into anything prior to Piper Maru.
It's the oh-so-clever definition of purity control as well has got me, because at start, we know what a control is in chemistry.
Yeah.
So, purity control was just that. It was the control group. Now it's no, it's the thing that controls purity, therefore it's a vaccine. And how we've just kept developing what purity and purity control are through the series kind of shows that we had no original game plan. We didn't plan from the start that purity was going to be the life force of the aliens.
No.
It was originally contrived to be a virus.
Yeah. And I do want to be clear, it's very much a case of there is no reason why in a long-running story like this, you can't make it up as you go along. That's fine. You just have to be more careful if you don't know where things are going at the start. Or you get yourself into very weird loops like the X-Files does. And it's not even worth doing. You could sort of say we've tried to do it with Conspiracy Corner to a point, but you could go over so many earlier experiences of the Syndicate and said, what on earth does that have to do with anything at this stage? All your clever meetings and your vague, well, the project is nearly complete and everything. I mean, wasn't it literally in either the end or the beginning that we said we've got a decade? Oh no, it must have been Patient X and Red and Black. Was the date has been set. It's a decade hence, or at least a decade hence. And Cassandra Spender has just thrown out the water. So what was the timeline?
Mm.
But hey, we get confirmation that Diana Fowley is bad.
Kel Surprise.
I do want to complain about Diana Fowley. Or just, she's so underused, she doesn't work.
I feel the same about Spender, to be honest, we haven't used Spender to his full potential yet.
No, at least he has more grounding than she does.
Yeah.
He at least cropped up earlier, and if you're paying attention, you notice he's the young cigarette smoking man, so that all makes a kind of sense. And it's not the most graceful thing, but he at least has more of a presence. But yeah, I don't understand why this series wasn't like a parallel thing where you got to see Spender and Fowley doing X-Files cases while Mulder and Scully do their thing.
Yeah.
Intersperse the episodes or something, make clear that the X-Files is still going on, because all we've got is that Skinner says that Spender hasn't filed any reports.
It's odd the way that Skinner kind of minces around
Spender
as well.
True.
Is he would have been on Mulder and Scully's back the entire time, chiding them, criticising them, disciplining them. It's, in a way, there's a weird power balance there that I don't quite get, that Spender seems to be calling the shots.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the argument that Cancerman's had a word with Skinner, but we've got no indication that has happened.
No. And, Skinner's making these kind of snarky comments, but technically he's his superior. He could come down on this.
Oh, yeah. Well, you reminded me of the other weird bit then, is that... Do you remember how this episode opens? So you get the whole thing with Cassandra in a train car, and then Skinner goes into Spender's office. It doesn't start with, your mother's been in an accident, come quick. It's, you haven't filed any reports.
Oh, and by the way, your mother.
Oh, by the way, your mother just narrowly escaped being set on fire.
Your mother who's been missing for 6 months at least.
And we need to talk about that. Because I also feel we fudged some details because we wanted to try and resolve any issues we had of how Dwayne Barry and Ascension worked. Which was Scully being taken away by a craft. I know we had a debate about this, and most people came down on a helicopter. But then we've done it again with Patient X, more Red and the Black, of Cassandra being ascended into what is very definitely a flying saucer, or at least a military UFO, whisked away, and then winds up in a train car.
Yep.
It's like, you didn't have to do that, did you? There wasn't the excuse for the train cars that you were shuttling Japanese scientists, I'm going to keep saying this, Japanese scientists around the country to work on MUFON people. Not that you just put people onto train cars to experiment on them.
We do know from Nisai it's very likely that Scully was one of the people experimented on in a train car.
Yeah. And I get that she would possibly be handed over to this team of scientists because we've got hold of her, we may as well experiment on her, she's coming to our hands, we need to do something with her. Dump her in a hospital. That I can go with. Cassandra, they summoned her to that location. Or if not her, the rebels summoned her to the location to try and kill her. So... And then the aliens came and rescued. What the heck? What is going on? Or was it implied the rebels took her? Actually,
no. The rebels tried to interrupt. She was definitely taken by the colonists.
Okay, that's fine.
Because all of them should have been taken, but the rebels kind of came and interrupted it.
That's true. So only she got taken. But doesn't that make her appearing in a train car even more confusing? Because that must be genuinely aliens, wasn't it?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
I'll try and put the animated GIF into the episode somehow. Just have Kronk pulling down a chart which has got the end of Emancipation X going on it. Oh, it's infuriating. Do we have much else for this episode? Should we get on to One Son?
Should we skip over so we can stop kind of skipping around the things that we're trying not to say?
It is actually easier to just sort of do it all as an aggregate, I think, on this one. But
yeah.
Okay, so One Son.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely no guest star changes from the previous part because it's everyone, plus you get the lone gunman this time. That's kind of nice, but they're kind of worthless in this episode.
And I guess that one rebel who appears quite a lot. You know, the one who takes the form of the Doctor.
Oh, yeah. Although, he wasn't notably cast anyway. But, okay, so One Son, directed by Rob Bowman, written by Chris Carter and Frank Spotnitz. First broadcast on Valentine's Day, 1999.
Oh, isn't that appropriate?
My God, what an episode. Could you not have put Rain King on this spot? It at least made sense. Anyway, have you got a synopsis for One Son? I keep wanting to say One Breath.
Unfortunately so.
Well, yeah, I know.
Again, kind of ad-libbed from Wikipedia. One Son begins where Two Fathers left off, with Cassandra in Mulder's apartment demanding to be killed. Before Mulder can make any sort of decision, the group is suddenly quarantined by the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, who are being led by Diana Fowley. They claim that Cassandra is carrying a contagious organism, which they believe is the thing that made all of those scientists in the train car spontaneously combust. Mulder very quickly realises this is probably not true. Cassandra has been in a public hospital for some time and in close proximity to them, and nothing bad has happened. In the meantime, we see Krycek reporting to the Syndicate about Cassandra's escape, noting that the alien rebels seem to want to keep Cassandra alive. The Syndicate decide that they're going to turn Cassandra over to the colonists to save themselves by commencing the colonization immediately. While wandering around the quarantine centre at Fort Marlene, Mulder runs into a very unwell, sickly-looking Marita Covarrubias. She explains to him that she has been subjected to many experiments by the Syndicate to create a black oil virus vaccine. She also tells them that the colonists will begin colonization if they learn of Cassandra's existence and the fact that she is now an alien-human hybrid. With the help of the lone gunman, Scully looks into Fowley's personal history. She tells Mulder that she's learnt that Fowley had been collecting data on alien abductees, specifically the ones from the MUFON group, almost every week, although there is no trace of her activities in the FBI records. Mulder refuses to hear anything bad about Fowley, saying he still trusts her. However, he does go to her apartment in the Watergate Hotel to confront her. While inside Fowley's apartment, Mulder searches for clues, but is interrupted as the Cancer Man walks into the room. He tells Mulder that he's been betrayed by Jeffrey Spender, who is actually his son. The Cancer Man tells Mulder that many years ago, the Syndicate agreed, everybody except Bill Mulder voting in favour, to align themselves with the colonists to be spared during the colonization. As part of this deal, every member of the Syndicate was forced to give up a family member to the colonists as collateral. In return, an alien fetus would be given to the Syndicate in order for them to gain access to the alien genome, which would allow them to make an alien-human hybrid. Because Bill Mulder was so slow to agree to this, Samantha Mulder was not taken at the same time as all the other sacrifices, which is why she was snatched from their home in Mulder's view. By using the alien fetus, the Syndicate worked on creating hybrids who could survive the colonization. The Cancer Man confirms to Mulder that the colonization is going to begin as soon as Cassandra is handed over, and that, due to this, Mulder will soon be able to see Samantha again. He provides him with an address to the hangar where the Syndicate members are going to be meeting with the colonists. Spender heads to the Syndicate's headquarters and finds only Krycek there. He tells them that all the group's members, with the exception of the Cancer Man, have gone to retrieve Cassandra. They are preparing, of course, to give her over to the aliens. Fowley heads back to her apartment and finds Mulder there, where they have a brief exchange. She then heads to the hangar at El Rico Air Force Base, where Scully picked up Mulder, and the two try to stop the train car transporting Cassandra to El Rico. Spender arrives at Fort Marlene, where he runs into Marita. She tells him to go to the El Rico Air Force Base to find his mother. Spender also tries to get Marita rescued, roping in a very reluctant Krycek to this attempt. The Syndicate surgeon heads to procure the fetus, the one previously seen in Erlenmeyer Flask, but is killed by one of the alien rebels who steals his form. Kryjek finds the dead surgeon and the fetus missing and tells Spender that the rebels are now going to succeed in their goals to halt the colonization. In the meantime, we see the Syndicate and their families gathering at the El Rico Air Force Base. Shortly afterwards, Fowley arrives and a white light appears around one end of the hangar. It is revealed that it's not the colonists at all, but is instead the rebels. They surround and immolate the entirety of the Syndicate, with the exception of Fowley and the Cancer Man, who manage to escape by car. The following day, Mulder, Scully, Skinner, and Spender all report to Assistant Director Kirsch on the deaths of the Syndicate and Cassandra. Spender tells Kirsch that Mulder and Scully would have prevented their demise if only they had been in control of the X-Files at the time. He also insists that they be reassigned to the X-Files before he leaves the room. Spender heads to the X-Files office one last time to find the Cancer Man waiting for him. He berates Spender for not being enough like Mulder, and then shoots him in the head.
Thank you. Yay, Spender's dead! Woo! Woo!
I just don't think he was given enough time to achieve his full potential.
No.
You could have done so much more with his character if you hadn't rushed through his kind of assignment to the X-Files and death within about 10 episodes.
Yeah, and I think rushed is kind of the operative word for the whole experience. I'm just going to start with that. The end point of, Mulder and Scully could have saved all those people. Could have. How?
Could they though?
Yeah, this is the Syndicate, the people who operate in secret. Chances are, if Mulder and Scully had been investigating the X-Files, you'd be looking at the same scene. I also find it really weird that Kirsch is suddenly concerned about the loss of life when he literally did not care earlier. He wanted them to follow the book.
Yep.
And the other thing that got me about it was the fact that Spender says, Mulder and Scully could have stopped this. And Kirsch then says, why didn't I hear about this? And Mulder said no one was listening for years. So they couldn't have done anything, even if they had been in charge of the X-Files. This is like the third time we've come back to the X-Files. This has got to be the weakest one ever. Spender said that it should be back on the X-Files, and Kirsch is going to say, sure, why not? By the way, your suspension's been reversed because that was stupid.
I want to save it for now rather than bring it up when we were talking about Two Fathers, but Spender's development is, again, the operative word is still rushed, but he gets like a season or two's worth of development in an episode and a half here.
Yeah.
Because the previous episode where he's set on his first true mission to understand the Syndicate, which I didn't mention last time, was his mission is to kill Second Elder, essentially. To kill the alien that Cancer Man knows is now pretending to be Second Elder, which ultimately Spender fluffs up, though it's unclear that he understands the kind of foe he's going up against.
I literally don't think he did.
And Kryjek saves the day by stilettoing the guy.
Yeah.
But then from that, we've kind of gone through this whole thing where essentially Spender has failed to live up to Cancer Man's expectations, even though he was working on the flimsiest of information, and ultimately just couldn't be more Mulder, even though Mulder also would have fluffed up all Cancer Man's expectations just on the basis of being Mulder.
Yeah, but the key difference is that Mulder already knew all this stuff, and Cancer Man just doesn't tell Spender what's going on at any stage.
It's take this shiv and go stab that elderly man in the neck.
Yeah, and Kryjek saying, it's the first time you've seen Ron. He goes, yeah, Kit's got some culture shock because he's just been given, definitive proof that aliens walk amongst us.
Mm.
And that this is like one of the only ways to kill them. We've been very circumspect about Kryjek's arm as well, we should note. It's not hugely clear, but
I think we are usually heading to it. Usually he holds his missing arm stiff by his side.
Yeah, but it's not greatly obvious in how they filmed any of these shots.
I did admittedly rewind a few scenes just to check, because it's in particular the scene where he kills the Second Elder replicant. It's decidedly unclear if he's holding him with the prosthetic arm.
Yeah, it looks like he might be.
Yeah.
Somehow. On the subject, though, of the Rebels, shall we talk about possibly it's one of the worst effect shots, but it's also one of the most confusing shots in the entirety of the X-Files.
Mm.
Never been able to get over this, never quite understood how this works, because these episodes, Two Fathers and One Son, have both set up that basically the mutilated aliens, the alien rebels, will wear some kind of mask. We don't know quite how this works, but they appear to be wearing some kind of mask that you can tear off really easily, because people do it every 10 minutes in these episodes.
Yeah, as opposed to shapeshifting, it is a kind of flesh suit, essentially.
Yeah. And it's a case of, that's weird, but fine for them to pass undetected from other people. We'll go with it. Until the Doctor is trying to retrieve the embryo, we don't see what happens. He kills him off screen, walks out looking the same. Okay, they can apparently do this very fast.
Yeah.
Gets to the hangar where he doesn't kill all the people in the ambulance on the way to the meeting, where he could just set Cassandra on fire then. Gets all the way to the meeting, steps out, and it's a really brief shot of him shapeshifting into a mutilated face. What in the hell was anyone thinking with this?
It should be noticed that I think it's Spotnitz in particular hates that special effects shot.
But I don't think he hates it for the right reason. I think he hates it because it looks lousy.
Which it does.
It does look lousy, but it's terrible for the implications. Because surely the whole point was you mutilated yourself, therefore you wear a rubber mask.
I tried to look this up out of curiosity to see if there was an explanation of it, and the best X-Files wiki could give me for this, which I think is where I got this from, was that it's an either-or thing and they can choose to shapeshift or they can choose to do the face mask thing. It's like, really, is that the best explanation we can come up with?
But that's not true, because the woman who came in and killed him, the nurse, was wearing a rubber mask.
Yep.
So, no, I'd reject this. That's stupid. Because it undermines the whole point of you're mutilating yourself so you can't be affected by the black oil. If you shapeshift so your face now has holes in it, you can now be infected by the black oil.
It's just baffling.
It is. And I think this feeds back into your point as well of this episode moves so fast and offers so explanations and will not calm down. At the same time, it is an incredibly boring episode because so much of it is wasted on just talking.
It's particularly the last 20 minutes, because we have so much dialogue and so much repetition, like how many times we say, now they've got Cassandra, the colony will begin in various different ways.
Every time.
But the last 15 or 20 minutes, it's just a rush, and Mulder and Scully teleport between locations and things like that.
I think the train is like the hallmark bad bit of it, of they're chasing after Cassandra on a train. I don't understand why they're not using a helicopter for her here, because the film had loads of people infected by the black oil transported by helicopter. What gives? So then they put their car in front of the train plows through it, we go to ad break, and it turns out the train did nothing at all, it just didn't stop. But that's not clear from how the editing works, is it?
To be fair, it was massively ambitious for Mulder to jump out and start shooting at a train to stop it.
Well, that's the other thing. What are you to do?
It's not like a car, you can't shoot the tyres out or something.
No, and I don't understand why Scully's on board with this. Because Scully, I don't think, grasps the world-destroying thing you're trying to against her, but she still shoots at a train. And this one doesn't get them arrested either. You think they've seen charges after this?
I've got to note as well, because it is something that I read a report on a long time ago. You don't realise how much damage things on the track does to trains. So, technically speaking, yeah, putting that car on the track probably would have stopped it.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have caused some sort of massive fire or debris getting stuck under it. You think of it in the movie sense of just, vehicles in the tracks being cut in half by the train, but it's actually devastatingly destructive to the train to do this.
Yeah, so that just doesn't read right, does it? And the train's just unfazed, and that cutting's really bad, so it just keeps on trundling off on apparently a direct train route to this Air Force base.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about this bit either, are we? It does strike me, though, that you could have cut down Cancerman and Mulder's confrontation, or Mulder and Fowley's confrontation, or Scully's kind of good, kind of terrible evidence for Fowley not being on the level.
I thought it was fairly good evidence, to be honest.
I thought it was fairly good evidence, but it's one of these it's not concrete enough, but then Mulder's worked on so much less evidence anyway.
I still don't understand why Mulder is so resolute that we can trust Fowley, when literally everything she has done in the series to date has been deeply suspicious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand how he has any faith in her after the beginning. Because surely he could have looked at the report that Scully said that, doesn't paint the experience that he had.
Yeah.
And unless he's talked to her off screen and never mentioned the fact that she said, oh, yeah, I had to do that to make sure that, I don't know, Gibson Praise was let go. Do we want to mention Gibson Praise? We haven't talked about Gibson Praise.
We don't talk about Praise anymore.
We don't. He was kind of essential, wasn't he, at one point? That one just went by the wayside. I do like... Oh, no, I don't like. I think it's terrible, actually, but it reminds me of Dark Skies. Is the scene where the flashback with Cancerman carrying an American flag to give to the aliens.
Oh, at the very start.
At the very start. Is, for one thing, what are you doing? What are they going to do with this flag? I don't think they're going to understand what you've given them.
You're picturing in terms of, isn't it Mars Attacks where they release the doves and the aliens shoot them?
Yeah. Oh, maybe doves are a sign of war on Mars, that kind of thing. It's very weird to see it's done straight after Mars Attacks. But it's reminiscent of a scene in Dark Skies, oddly enough, which you see their syndicate's first encounter with the aliens.
Okay.
And they've got this device which basically allows telepathic communication between them.
All right.
So we don't get into how they're communicating with the aliens at all.
We are pretty sure that the aliens are telepathic to a degree in this series.
But then you can also talk to them in English because the alien bounty hunter can just do it for you.
Again, the bounty hunter is a different race to the colonists.
Yeah, I know.
The colonists are the ones we know are telepathic.
I think we're going to fudge these details at some point, aren't we? In Dark Skies, at least, they telepathically communicate and the aliens just demand unconditional surrender. Because Dark Skies has the opposite tact of the secret syndicate are working against the aliens.
Okay.
And basically, it's the whole, you call it the public knows. So basically, they're kind of like Mordor, but with more power.
You kind of have an idea that the syndicate aren't above double-crossing the aliens in this.
Well, no.
Because the plan is kind of consolidated in this one. So basically what we learn is the fact that the hybridization program is designed to give them a way to become hybrids themselves.
Yeah.
Somehow these cells are going to be transplanted in the syndicates and their families so they will survive. And also the collateral that's making us want to do this is if we double-cross these aliens in any way, they will murder the family members we've given to them.
Yeah, that bit's more implicit.
They're essentially hostages.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we've got the Bill Mulder project on the side is the vaccine. So Mulder went the other way of the, hang on, if we do this, only a handful of them will survive. If we vaccinate everybody, then everybody survives.
Yeah.
So at least you've got the idea of how the vaccine program feeds into this plan now.
Yeah, I think the contrary point of that, unfortunately, is like with Two Fathers, we've still got the, so you're just going to awkwardly share the neighborhood with the grey aliens. Just go about your business. Just, yep, go to the corner shop and hope they still got bread.
Good day to you, Mr. and Mrs. Grey. Lovely weather we're having. How are the small, screaming reptilian hellspawn today?
The other point, though, is even if Bill Mulder is right and you can do a vaccine, I don't have much hope that the aliens can't, to borrow a famous phrase, take off and nuke the site from orbit. I mean, you're trusting the technologically advanced race not to just say, okay, we're going to burn down the entire landscape.
Presumably they've got to leave the planet habitable. Not the whole, oh hey, now we've got no trees or potable water. Oh dear.
To their level of inhabitable. I mean, we don't know what they're capable of. These people can actually travel faster than light as far as we can tell.
True. You don't know that they even breathe oxygen 100%.
Exactly.
Well, they've got to a degree, otherwise...
Well, they can cope with oxygen. Whether they can actually survive on it is another
matter. In the sense of, we could survive at high altitude for a small time.
Yeah. We don't know enough about the biology to know what state they'd like the world to be left in.
Mm.
So, it does feel that no matter what you do for the Syndicate's plans, you come to the conclusion of, you are happy sharing a planet with a species that didn't want to share the planet with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just expecting them on your gentleman's agreement, which I'm not sure they understand, to not murder you.
You got to assume they do understand it because they've gone, 50 years and not colonised the planet yet.
Oh, true, but whether they understand the concept of a gentleman's agreement or it's just, yeah, we'll do that, it's fine, just murder them when they're outshot. Let them get around the corner, we'd shoot them.
They're doing the alien equivalent of air quotes. We totally agree to this.
Yes, it turns out aliens get sarcasm. Humans don't get alien sarcasm, however. It's nice Samantha's come up again, although Samantha's plotline has become possibly one of the most convoluted ongoing plot lines because it's still not resolved of, Mulder, do you not want to talk to Councilman and say, okay, if I do this for you, Samantha will be right to me. Who the hell was that woman in the diner?
I liked when they waved it off. It might have been in Two Fathers, actually. He mentions it to Cassandra and she goes, oh, no, that's not the real one. And they just plough on.
Yeah, and I think it came from a previous episode as well. There was a mention of, oh, that's not the real Samantha. Mulder, can you please protest things? And then, oh, she'll be brought back to you. Okay. And, oh, she was directed from her home because it was, Bill Mulder was slow to agree. Really? Bill Mulder got to the meeting with the aliens, but didn't manage to drag his daughter with him? And so you went to his house. They went to Bill Mulder's house and abducted his daughter, while Bill Mulder and Tina Mulder were next door.
They just went so one alien could gyrate in the doorway for Mulder a bit.
I know. What? Can you explain that, Bill Mulder? What? Do the aliens just the alien discotheque land where they're just having parties? Oh yeah, by the way, we've got to pick up Samantha. Okay, you want to stop the music? Nah, keep it going. It's fine. Oh hey, dude.
I did learn from this that the alien colonists, the Greys, are all portrayed by young women.
Yeah, there's a comment somewhere about to get a weird kind of movement, you put like 8 to 11-year-olds in like
girls though specifically.
Yeah,
apparently it's what Spielberg found with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and they've done the same thing here in the X-Files.
It's like it's grey spandex and it's that certain age range they move in a way that is uncomfortable.
Yeah, they've said it's kind of that specifically girls of that age group are more graceful than boys of that age group, so you get that kind of weird motion for them.
There's something unnatural about how they're walking like that. Very, very odd that works, but yeah.
It does work very well, though. It's an interesting observation.
It is. I mean, I kind of like the brief shot of young Syndicate. Who they did their best to make them look young, but not really.
With Cancerman's floppy hair.
Yeah, I like the 70s haircuts. They were good at least. And it's nice to see Bill Mulder back in briefly, because we haven't seen him for a while.
At the same time, this episode does have a couple of nice aspects to it like that. But at the same time, you have such clumsiness, like Fowley staying in the Watergate, for example.
Yeah, it feels like it's just, you couldn't come up with a better reference than to put in Watergate. I'll say the one bit just before that threw me watching it again is Mulder and Scully being grabbed by the CDC. It's gone through decontamination procedures or whatever.
In a scene that's inspired by the decontamination scene from Dr. No, interestingly.
Yep. That's really weird. I'm not sure why he'd say that do that. And Mulder perving on Scully because, sure, why not? He's still going to look at Fowley willingly for some reason. But I got the distinct impression they were quarantined because there was a whole, they can't prove they've been infected by anything, but quarantine is you put someone into restricted area for 40 days. That's what quarantine came from, isn't it?
Yes.
To make sure they can't be infectious, or you don't understand what's wrong with them yet.
Yep. To make sure that they can't potentially infect someone else.
Yeah. And Mulder runs into Marita, and that's fine. And then he just leaves.
As does Scully.
And they just both walk right out. I thought you two were in trouble. No, you're just going to walk out this place.
To be fair, I think Fowley says something like, oh, I'm sorry we made a mistake. But they still don't release Cassandra either. No. And if you'd made a mistake, you would have released Cassandra too.
If she's infectious, we're infectious. I'm in two minds about Marita. I mean, on the one hand, it's kind of nice to know what happened to her. Yeah. On the other, experiment on her to make a vaccine. You know the Russians have it. Shouldn't you just go and steal everything at Tunguska? Wouldn't that be easier?
Well, they know the vaccine worked as well because they cured Marita with it.
Yeah, so I'm not... This feels like they need to get her in as a guest star. But then, watching it through, my other problem is, I like Spender rescuing her, not knowing she is sort of just doing the right thing at this juncture. And, grabbing Krychek when he happens to be walking past and saying, get her out of here, they won't listen to me.
It's kind of interesting it is Krychek as well, given his history with Marita. Yeah.
And that's all great. There's no follow-up. Did she get out?
I don't know. I'm not sure she ever comes back, to be honest.
No, I'm not sure either. And Krychek, I think we'll just give up on Krychek's career, because your career doesn't make any sense, Krychek. I don't know what you're doing anymore. I know there's a reference of Fowler going to Tunisia, which is like the one link you can make to SR-819. Not sure what she was doing in Tunisia, because other than she was going to Tatooine, which is where...
Doesn't Tunisia link in with the end of the movie as well?
It does, which we're also not referencing, because they had crops for the bees back then, but we don't talk about the bees.
But Mulder doesn't know about the plantation in Tunisia.
So that was... Yeah, that doesn't help us at all.
Poor bees.
The poor bees. They were having such fun stinging people.
And being so well behaved. Travelling all that distance on Scully's coat just to sting her at an opportune time.
Almost like it was under remote control. Now we went over that in the film. I suppose I would say that's one thing about these two episodes as well, is I know there's that negative stigma attached to the film that Chris Carter objected to, but there's nothing that these two episodes do that remotely approaches like either the scale and spectacle of the film, which, look a lot better than this, but then that's the nature of TV versus film. Yeah, so it's always going to happen. But in terms of the actual additions to the conspiracy, or the progress of the conspiracy, amounts to maybe 2 minutes of the episode. Because all you know is what the Xenogears' ultimate plan was making the alien-human hybrids. Bill Mulder was making the vaccine. The vaccine will kill the black oil. You want to live with aliens coexisting like this for some reason. And, now we're going to do colonization. It didn't need to be 2 episodes. Well, then again, it didn't need to be 2
Presumably
episodes.
the colonization's now been stalled again, though, because Cassandra got killed.
Well, yeah, and then there's no syndicate to help with, so aliens could just come and plough the earth normally.
Yeah, I suppose.
But, I mean, in terms of the conspiracy advancement is... We've complained so many times about how the 2-parters and 3-parters aren't well paced.
No.
This one has the weird problem, unlike the other one, where part 1 is too slow and part 2 is too much happening.
The issue with this one is if you cut out all the repetition and monologues, you could pace it right as well.
But you get 1 episode of it.
But you'd also be able to expand on the bits like towards the end where Mulder and Scully just keep appearing at different locations.
Yeah.
You could actually have a proper flow through it and not, we are suddenly at a train yard and Mulder and Scully are here, and now we're at this location and Mulder and Scully are here.
Yeah.
Sort of feel to it.
I mean, yeah, it's not at all clear how they even found the train car. I mean, that surely can't have been easy to locate that one.
Mm.
And did we touch on Mulder and Fowley? I suppose we return to it. Just why? I think even Scully says, why do you blindly trust her? You sort of meant to trust no one, but you just give her so many chances. Again, if she had been Phoebe Green, I think you could have left it exactly as it was, and we would have understood why this is happening.
Yeah.
As it is, I've never got the impression they've actually had a romantic relationship. We've had the impression they could have, but then she was reassigned.
They're friends and he very much admires her.
Yeah. And they do kiss briefly in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But it's if she'd been Phoebe Green, you could sort of go with, yes, she's got this past relationship.
Oh, they did have a relationship. The Lone Gunman commented on it previously. So yeah, there is a previous relationship there.
But I don't think it's not expressed as well. I mean, Phoebe Green did very well for her 45 minutes to express a previous relationship.
Yeah, it's interesting that you express that so well with Phoebe in Fire. But Diane, we've seen her in all of about 4 episodes now, and there's been not a lot of chemistry between her and Mulder.
Well, I'd say 3 and a bit, because she's only just in 2 fathers.
Yeah, true.
Actually, that's a good point. Diana Fowley. So we know that Cigarette Smoker Man, when he has run out of other people, I don't understand why he's not getting Krychek to do...
Who trusts Krychek at this point?
Well, they do. They keep using him to do minutes for the meeting. But, hang on. So what Cancer Man did... Hang on. So Cancer Man spends 2 fathers doing a monologue at Fowley.
Yeah.
Fowley then gets the CDC to raid Mulder's apartment.
Yeah.
Cancer Man...
It infers that Spender called the CDC there.
Yeah. But then Cancer Man goes to Fowler's apartment looking for Spender, doesn't find him, and tells Mulder everything.
Yeah.
And Fowler has never betrayed Cancer Man.
No.
What? How does any of that make sense?
Nah.
I mean...
If the genesis of the rebels makes sense, I'll let them have that.
Oh, fair enough. But what I was originally going to go for was, if you want evidence for how this was made up as it went along, Fowley getting shot in the end makes no sense.
That was a bit of an accident, though.
It still makes no sense, though.
No.
Because they were aiming at her, and that was a syndicate who shot her.
Mm.
And if she's always been alive with Cancer Man, as this episode implies, they could go to the motel door, knock at it, and say, "You got Gibson for us?" And she just hand him over and not die. And
maybe it's to make it realistic.
I'm sure they could have done it a different way. They just had someone, the room service trick.
We have not really touched upon Cancer Man and Spender's relationship.
I know. I do kind of like
fathers and sons of 2 fathers and 1 son.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out, according to I think Spotnitz, that Mulder is the 1 son.
Yeah, I think we got that. Yeah. Especially as we got towards the end of the episode and we have the wonderful scene where they slap around Spender a bit because he's not enough like Mulder.
I know, but I enjoy Spender being beaten up quite a lot. But at the same time, you kind of want to grab Cancerman and sort of shake him a bit, saying, "You taught him nothing! Nothing! How is he meant to act like Mulder if he doesn't know anything?"
There is a lovely little anecdote of William B. Davis and Chris Owens working together, because when Chris Owens found out he was going to be killed off not long after his character was introduced, he was disappointed. And it was reportedly in the last scene that he filmed with Davis being his murder.
Yeah.
Davis said kind of something to the effect of, "Oh, I don't want to shoot you, I really like working with you." And Chris Owens' refrain was that didn't really stop him from just slapping me around in that previous scene or something like that.
And it was pretty good to see that. I am just kind of baffled by Cancerman in this episode. I mean, what you can get the one thing of maybe he was trying to get Spender into things slowly. You know, it's a graceful descent into the depths of the conspiracy when most other people are just given a dossier and learn everything in one go.
And not given a stiletto and told go shiv that guy.
Yeah, and the whole has to be the basic neck. Do you not want to explain a bit more about how this works and why you have to do this and what the stakes are?
Oh, you know, it's so variable. It used to be that it had to be precisely between two certain vertebrae.
Yeah.
And now it's basically just stab him, it'll work. It'll be fine.
But again, I don't understand why Cancerman thinks that Spender's just going to toe the line on the basis of he's his son. Does he think genetic memory works? That Spender just genetically knows conspiracy stuff because he's his son?
It's also just the kind of belief that I love the repetition of, oh, you're nowhere near the man Mulder is or anything like that. Mulder's been undermining your plans religiously for the last 6 years.
I know you kind of tried to recruit him in Redux Part 2. You did so in one of the most baffling ways I've ever seen try to recruit someone, but I know you tried. But you could have recruited Mulder from the X-Files at literally any point. And I think that goes back to the problem with the conspiracy and Bill Mulder being involved in it, is it makes Cancerman's actions really strange half the time.
Yeah.
How can you be sure that Bill Mulder didn't tell Mulder something?
True.
Like, what if Bill Mulder did what Cancerman did was write down his real life experience as a novel, so he's told Mulder this story about alien colonizers and things and secret government conspiracies. You don't know what happened, and Mulder goes, "Wait a minute. Oh, it's just an infuriating episode." Do we have much else for it?
No, I don't think we do, really. I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, I still can't believe the reviews are positive as they are, because it just feels like we want to do the film again and be more explicit, either more explicit or more concrete.
Yeah. It's interesting, its popularity. Here in the UK, I believe it's One Son, at the time it first aired, was the 4th most watched English TV show that week, which shows kind of how popular it was.
Yeah. And I can understand that, because you don't know how it's going to unfold and you don't know how it's going to crash down around you. So it's going to be, the anticipation is built up by two fathers of, yeah, the world's screwed. Can they possibly resolve this by the end of the next episode?
Interestingly, one of the series that beat it was The Simpsons.
You cannot really defeat The Simpsons, can you? I mean, what do you expect? But at the same time, I don't think I ever liked this episode, I must admit.
No, admittedly, I have the problem of I only came into the series in season 5, so I hadn't had much of the background for this. But I basically remember my first watch through that after the Red and the Black, I wasn't that invested in the conspiracy. I really like the Red and the Black, and I still do. But for me, that was the kind of downward spiral. But, maybe it's going to be different now because I've got that background watching it again. I know all the events that led up to this point, which I didn't have previously.
Doesn't help, does it?
Things like them whipping out the Earl and Mayer flask meant nothing to me.
Yeah. But it doesn't help.
No, it doesn't really.
I mean, we didn't actually touch on the embryo, though I don't think there's much to say other than, yeah, the aliens gave us the embryo. Like, great. Is that really what the best you could come up with?
So they knew the genome.
I'm sure there's other ways of doing information transfer. You don't have to do that kind of morbid thing of giving them a fetus from your species.
It says the aliens stumble across and you give them the American flag and they just hold out a floppy disk.
Yeah. I mean, why not? Don't know what they're doing with the flag afterwards. But, I mean, I do remember trying to watch this the first time round, and as I said, as much as William B. Davis is a great actor, his monologues were really off-putting and really dissatisfying to listen to.
I never liked them in the X-Files. I always think they're a bit pretentious, these opening monologues. And there's something that's almost exclusive to the conspiracy episodes. You often get the chunky monologues.
Yeah. And I think one of the reviews also, I think it made the good point of letting Cancerman and Fowley go feels clunky as well. It's not that there's a reason for them to not be caught up in the rest of it. It's the fact that he's one of the most popular characters you've got, so you want to hang on to him as a villain. And she's
essentially our femme fatale.
Yeah, I mean, we can use her to trip Mulder up in future somehow. And that's why we're keeping her. The rest of them are expendable. So long, sayonara, bye-bye.
I just think it's a really clumsy scene. As much as I actually like the immolation, I like, much like in the Patient X, where everything fades to black and you hear the screams. But it's the fact that they've just conveniently moved slightly out of the group, so as soon as the doors open, they can peg it to the car and no one else can.
Yeah, it's things like the rebels coming instead of the actual aliens. That's fine as a resolution. I mean,
it's good for the sudden dread when you see it as well, when the doors open, and unlike the first time, it's not the child-sized aliens, and you realise what's gone wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. It's just, it doesn't feel like it's a moment that's really been earned, and you can't help but say, okay, the Syndicate probably do deserve this, given what they've done over the years. Their families, presumably, don't quite understand what they're doing. I doubt they're having conversation around the dinner table saying, oh yeah, by the way, we need to go off and be abducted by aliens or implanted with hybrid genes.
They've got to know to some degree because, like, the things that Tina evidently knows about why Samantha was taken.
Yeah, well, they're very circumspect about that. I mean, the interesting shot was seeing Cassandra being led in, and you go, yeah, why wasn't Jeffrey the one taken?
In my head, and it might just be a headcanon, I'm going to assume she volunteered.
Yeah, I think that's
because most of them gave up children, but I can imagine the argument where a mother would say, no, save him, I'll take his place.
Yeah.
So that is my assumption of why it's specifically Cassandra, not Jeffrey.
I can completely concur with that one. Don't really like it still.
Yeah. But you can also understand why so many of them go willingly, because you can imagine putting this argument to a child of, oh, you're just going to take a little trip, it's going to be really exciting. And, they go in and wouldn't be screaming and crying and dragging their feet or anything like that.
No. Well, I think that does also provoke a complication, though. Or there are two complications that stem off that.
Yeah.
The first is, what is happening to these people when they're abducted by aliens?
We've no idea.
We have no idea. And you've got to assume, permanent suspended animation, weird when they come back, make them sort of live out their lives. Basically, you're imprisoning them for 20-odd years, and you don't get to see them, and quite how much freedom they've got.
Implication that there's some kind of experimentation going on, so maybe it's a thing of the aliens, like we are creating hybrids on Earth, they're studying the humans in some way.
Yeah, so medical nightmare, that's what they've signed up for.
Medical nightmare, yep.
Leading to the other part, of course, is, so, why do we have so many clones of Samantha wandering around? And what happened with Cassandra? Because Cassandra's plot doesn't make a lot of sense now, does it?
No. If she is the one who's being used to make the true hybrid.
Yeah, but she was handed over to the aliens as collateral, so that should be her role done and dusted. What she's doing in the rest of the series, I don't understand.
And why she keeps popping up as well, because Spender knew her through his childhood, so it's not just that she's occasionally escaped notice or something. She's been returned home, specifically.
Yeah, and re-abducted a few times, because she said to herself that she's been multiple abductees.
Yeah.
So...
And Jeffrey remembers her stories about being abducted and things like that.
And it's hard not to then say, yeah, so what Patient X set up is not what these two episodes are doing anymore.
Yeah.
Congrats, guys. You've done really well with your consistency.
We gave them away so they'd come back to us, but some were a lot more efficient at doing so than others.
Yeah, she came back early. It's because she was older, she got returned first. We don't want this one. It just shows you that...
We've got all these adorable children.
Yeah. Oh, we can do such horrible things to them. Except that one. Bill Mulder's daughter will be cloned. Right, we've got a batch of 500 Samanthas. What do you want to do? Just sprinkle them over the earth somewhere, it's fine. But sir...
You imagine the aliens watching this as like their kind of Truman Show-ish reality show where they just see Mulder react to all these clones they've randomly placed in society.
I understand how the impulse worked of, we want to explain why Samantha was taken. We need a specific reason for it. It can't just be normal abduction. There has to be some reason why, especially with Bill Mulder involved in the project.
Yeah.
That's fine. I think the problem was there was implied it was a punishment at one point. I can't remember when that came up, but there was certainly an implication of punishment. And that's also fine. The problem is when you have the whole syndicate sacrificing someone, what they have to do to Samantha suddenly doesn't make any sense. Because even if Bill Mulder's slow to it, he still agreed. So, yeah, that's just... No, you're going to have to go down one way or the other. Samantha either has to be a special case. No, she has to be a special case. There's no way around this. There's no good reason for it to keep coming back otherwise. Would you like to try and do Conspiracy Con? I mean, we can let you off doing Conspiracy Con, given that you're going to struggle because no one can make sense of this anymore.
I reckon I can do it.
Okay, okay. So, we've skipped a few of them, but we're going to try for Kim's Conspiracy Corner.
In this last huzzah for the Syndicate, every part of their little plot is laid bare for us at last. We learned that some 50 years ago, they first met with the alien colonists and struck some kind of deal. The only one thing that's still a little vague is what the colonists got out of this. In this deal, they were forced to each give up a family member as collateral, and in return were gifted the alien fetus that we saw in Earl and Mayor Flask, which granted them the alien genome. The purpose of this was that colonization was agreed to not begin until the human race had developed a viable alien-human hybrid that could survive the colonization. When this was done, the cells would be implanted into the Syndicate members and their families, turning them into hybrids that could survive everything. The one dissenter to this was Bill Mulder, who instead used the alien genome to create a vaccine, the purity control that we've seen, which would therefore be able to inoculate humans and save everybody, not just a chosen few. We also learn in this episode more of the alien rebels, who are a completely separate race, who are determined to wipe out the colonists. They don't seem to be easy to ally with, however, because as we've seen, they will immolate humans who get in their way as well. They're just intent on beating the colonists. So as we finally get to the point in this episode where the hybrid is made, Cassandra, and is ready to pass over to the colonists, unfortunately that's where things fall apart. The rebels get in there first, they steal back the alien fetus, and they obliterate all members of the Syndicate apart from Fowley, Kryjik, and the Cancer Man, thus bringing an end to the Syndicate era of this. How this leaves the colonization project is unknown. We don't know if this has completely foiled the plans, or now the colonization will be able to begin unhindered.
Thank you.
I don't think I did too bad.
No, I don't think you did too bad. Doesn't make a lick of sense, but
summarised.
Very good. Okay, so next week we are back to Monster of the Week. Hooray!
It's got to be Aguamala,
It's
right?
Aguamala and Monday.
Yeah, I like them both.
Oh yeah, but both fine. A complete change of tone, and it's probably worth noting that Mulder and Scully are just back on the X-Files. Who cares? They're back. It's fine. We're not going to really get into any of the changes that need to have happened for that, but there they are. So that'll be fun. If you'd like to get hold of us in the meantime, our email address is thingsargettingstrange42@gmail.com.
Alternatively, you can get us on social media. On Twitter and Tumblr, we are GetStrange42. On Mastodon, we are at GetStrange42 at universedon.com. And on Facebook, you can find us by searching for Things Are Getting Strange and X-Files Rewatch Podcast. Additionally, if you're not sick of my voice by now, I also have a channel on Twitch TV called AdverseCamber42. I stream 3 times a week, Mondays and Wednesdays at 8pm GMT, and Saturdays at 5pm GMT, where I play through just whatever I've got going on the PlayStation 5 at the moment. It's currently Yakuza Like a Dragon.
We have a Patreon, patreon.com/thingsargettingstrange, as alluded to before, where you can find the first 3 parts of our Let's Play of the X-Files game, soon to be followed by part 4, and we'll conclude with part 5. And then we're probably going to move on to the first of the novels.
Which is Goblins.
And we plan to cover all the novels, all the comics, which will be especially fun when we get to season 10 and 11 for the contrast. Board games and the other PS2 game and anything else we happen to run across that isn't a TV or a film.
If you've got any ideas for us, do let us know.
Yep, all suggestions gratefully received. Sign up for as little as $3 a month. That gets you access to everything. And if you give a little bit more, we will read your names out at the end of the episode. You also get early access to the episodes, so 2 days before normal release, if that helps.
Woo.
Our theme music is Envisioned by Kevin MacLeod. You can find that on incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, please remember...
The future is here, and all bets are off.